Welcome to Walking with Jesus Bible Study. We're going to be in the book of John, chapter 20, verse 29. And this is Jesus speaking. And Jesus saith unto him, Thomas, because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. Blessed are they that have not seen, and yet have believed. And Jesus said unto them, Thomas, because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. Blessed are they that have not seen, and yet have believed. When we think of Christ, when we think of Christians, we hear faith. We got to have faith. Our whole relationship is built on faith. It's built on trust. You got to have faith. Just have faith to the size of a mustard seed. Believing. There's going to be many of us who will probably never see a miracle, probably never witness, seas being parted, somebody being healed from a sickness. All the big major things that we would consider like, oh, that's a miracle. Look. This man didn't have an arm, and literally an arm grew back out. And yes, that has happened. I believe it was back in the 70s or 80s, and this man had gone to church, and he didn't have no arm. And while he was standing there, the arm literally grew back to its form. Those are big and those are major. And yet many of us want to yearn to see those things and see these signs. But there's many of those who have seen and witnessed such things and still have trouble with their faith. Many of us are blessed every day. See, the thing, we have miracles happen to us every single day. We just don't count them as miracles because they're not parting the seas. They're not an arm growing out. But God sacrifices and gives us himself each and every single day. He constantly pours out grace. He constantly pours out forgiveness, mercy, miracles, blessings. There's so many very small details that are going to place even every single day, every second, that we don't pay attention to because they don't seem that important. But without those things, things cannot fall into place. Things cannot connect together. So we got to have faith. And things that we don't quite see, things that we don't quite understand, knowing that each piece is a puzzle piece to the big picture. There's several times throughout the Bible where God says, this generation asks for signs and wonders, and yet they will not be seen. He will not give it to them. Because even if there was to be seen and was given to them, it wouldn't matter. Their minds wouldn't change. Their hearts wouldn't soften. Because they're so stuck on themselves. They trust too much in their own understanding. Because they can't comprehend the wonder, the intelligence of the God of the universe, who can put together a human being, a dinosaur, and all these little parts that make everything tick and go. How the flower starts from a seed, draws water from the soil, blooms at the top. If nobody had ever seen a flower, ever, and somebody was describing how a flower comes to, we couldn't picture, we couldn't imagine it. Like, that's impossible. There's no way. Almost everything that God has created, that if we haven't seen it, how would we believe it? We're still amazed when we go to the zoo and when we look on the internet at all the amazing creatures that ever existed. And we're just in awe and wonderment. And we see it, and it still seems incredible. The intelligence, the details that he has placed into everything, of how it functions, how it works, what it looks like, what each purpose is. Like a fish and its scales and how it breathes underwater. The book of Exodus is a perfect example of when God says, hey, it wouldn't matter if you had signs and wonders because it would do no purpose. The Israelites, after witnessing some of the most major wonders and miracles that God has ever performed, how quick they've forgotten, how quick they dispersed it, how quick they no longer cared, didn't obey God, acting like he just didn't produce these things, even mocked him, even had the audacity to literally say, why would you bring us from all this way from Egypt and let us die of water? The man who just parted the sea that they literally walked between an ocean that was split in half. Question, what was he thinking? What was he doing? Why have you brought us to this wilderness, God, just for us to die? I'd rather go back to Egypt. At least we had onions. Could you imagine going all through what God has done and to hear a bunch of people crying and complaining, eating literally bread from heaven, complaining they wish they was back in the hard labor, in the slavery, over because they wanted some bitter herbs and onions? Many of us has had the blessing and the honor to rich in such things, whether big or small, and yet we forget. Just like those Israelites, we have forgotten how God has already blessed us. We have forgotten about the miracles that he has produced throughout our lifetime, how he has saved our lives time and time again. I don't know about you, but there's many of us that was called, where God just snatched us up and called us and brought us back, that we have lived lives, and throughout our life, we know that the devil has tried to kill us. We know that our life, me personally, I know that I have died literally over 3 times, literally was pronounced dead, and is still here. I have died over 20 times in my life, and God has saved me. And that's just not counting of just saving my life, but the most important one is always being born again, to be welcomed back into his kingdom, to actually be alive in his light as a child of God, not just alive and living in this world. All the faith that we have, all the love that we have, we are quick to forget. All the things that we have seen, all the things that we have witnessed, all the things that we have heard, all the blessings that he has already poured out unto us. So how great is it for those who have not have the honor and the blessings of such things, to constantly still be on fire for God. We have placed our hopes and our love too many times on the wrong things. We shouldn't have to see such things to have faith in God. We shouldn't have to receive blessings to faithfully follow God. We should just be faithfully forever following Him, just simply because He loves us. Reading this word alone speaks of how much He loves us. We don't need to be a King David. We don't need to be a Solomon. We don't need to be a Ruth. We just need to simply be us, the person who He created us to be, because we are all equally important. And yet you got these teachings of sometimes these people out here teaching everybody, you know, God's going to do this and He's going to do this because it says so. No, that was David's story. That was Ruth's story. That was Job's story. That's not your story. These stories are written so that you can understand, so that you can overcome what the enemy in this world has to throw at you, that you can make it through. Here's proof that God would not forsake you. Here's proof that God loves you. Here is proof. You don't need to be an eyewitness to anything. You don't need to have this miracle come down purposely just for you. This word alone should provide you with enough faith in your heart, in your spirit, and in your soul to constantly stand on the truth, to constantly stand that God is your creator, He is your God, and He is your Father. This Bible speaks nothing of faith. This Bible is the faith that you're seeking. It is the trust that you need. Just simply reading it can give you all the faith and trust that you could ever need to stand firm and to stand strong in your walk with Christ.